I had sworn off dating apps for good. After countless swipes that led to awkward silences, mismatched intentions, and the haunting weight of loneliness, I deleted them all, or so I thought. The notification came at midnight, sharp, slicing through the stillness of my apartment like a knife. Find your true soul. Love is waiting for you. The icon on my phone's home screen was unfamiliar, a silver heart encased in a black square, pulsating faintly like it had a heartbeat. I didn't remember downloading it, but curiosity, that ancient predator, got the better of me. The interface was sleek, minimalistic, almost hypnotic. A single question greeted me. What do you desire most? I hesitated, my fingers hovering over the keyboard. What did I desire? Companionship, fulfillment, someone to understand me, wholly and without judgment? I began typing but stopped when the app continued without input, as if it had read my thoughts. We know. The screen shifted, and a profile appeared. Stark white text on a black background. His name was Ethereal Evan, his photo blurred like an unfinished memory. Despite the obscured image, something about him felt deeply familiar, as though I'd met him in a dream or a forgotten lifetime. The tagline under his name read, "Your heart's truest echo." My thumb hesitated over the heart icon. The app pulsed faintly, the phone growing warmer in my hand. Against all reason, I swiped right. The match was instant. The screen dimmed to black, save for a single message. "He's waiting for you." Evan messaged first. His words arrived with a strange precision, perfectly timed, to interrupt my thoughts, as if the app anticipated what I needed to hear. Evan. Did it surprise you? Matching this quickly? Me. A little. Is that normal here? Evan. It is for us. Tell me, what's something you've never shared with anyone else? I frowned, rereading the question. It was bold, but not in a way that put me off. Instead, it felt disarming. For reasons I couldn't explain, I typed a response about my fear of endings, how I hated goodbyes, how even finishing a book sometimes left me hollow. His reply came almost instantly. Evan, I understand. Endings are overrated. Some things shouldn't have them at all. The words sent a chill through me, but I told myself it was just the late hour and my overactive imagination. Over the next few days, Evan became an increasingly present figure in my life. We exchanged messages that felt deeper than idle chatter, his responses always perfect. Too perfect, in hindsight. He seemed to know what I needed before I even realized it myself. But it wasn't just the conversations. Odd things began happening around me. At first, they were small, my phone buzzing with notifications when I hadn't touched it. The app sending cryptic messages like, "Closer than you think," or, "Do you feel it too?" Once, as I typed a reply to him, my coffee mug slid an inch closer to the edge of the table, seemingly unprovoked. Then came the dreams. Each night, I found myself in an endless, fog-filled void. Evan was always there, his features still blurred, but his presence tangible. He never spoke, but his gaze felt magnetic, pulling me closer until I woke, gasping for breath. On the third morning, I noticed something else. His profile picture had changed. The blur was sharper now, as if a painter had added new details overnight. I could almost make out his eyes, deep and dark, and the faint curve of a smile. I opened our chat. Me. Your photo looks different. Did you update it? Evan. It's just becoming clearer, like us. That should have been my cue to delete the app, to walk away from whatever this was. But instead, I felt drawn deeper, unable to pull myself out. The idea of meeting him in person lingered in my mind like an itch I couldn't scratch. That evening, as I sat by the window, me watching the rain streak down the glass, the app chimed again. Ready for the next step? He is. My finger hovered over the notification. Somewhere in the back of my mind, a voice screamed for me to stop. But another voice, the one that craved connection, the one that whispered that perhaps this was fate, drowned it out. I tapped the screen. Evan's message was waiting. Tomorrow, 8 p.m. I'll send the location. Trust me. The rain intensified, pattering against the glass like a warning. I stared at his words, the warmth of my phone seeping into my skin. For a moment, I thought I heard a faint hum, like distant static, echoing in the quiet of my apartment. Then it was gone. Tomorrow, 8 p.m. And just like that, I was committed. The next day passed in a haze. I stumbled through work, barely aware of my surroundings, my mind consumed by Evan's message. His words pulsed in my thoughts, growing louder with each passing hour. Tomorrow, 8 p.m. I'll send the location. Trust me. By the time the clock read 7:30, I was pacing my apartment, phone clutched tightly in my hand. The unease I'd been suppressing all day threatened to break free. Who arranges a date with so little detail? What kind of person exudes such strange authority over someone they've never met? And yet, I couldn't back out. My curiosity, or perhaps something stronger, was dragging me forward. At 7:45, the notification came. Meet me at the Hollow Oak. You'll know it when you see it. I frowned. The Hollow Oak wasn't a name I recognized, and a quick search turned up nothing useful. Still, the app provided directions, guiding me to a location a few miles from town, deep in the woods. The unease coiled tighter in my chest, but my legs carried me to the door, into the car, and down the desolate road. The drive was unnervingly quiet, the radio crackling with static no matter which station I tried. My headlights carved narrow beams through the darkness, illuminating twisting trees that seemed to reach for me. A faint mist clung to the ground, thickening as I neared the destination. When I arrived, the road ended abruptly in a clearing, dominated by an enormous oak tree with sprawling, gnarled branches. It towered like a sentinel, its bark blackened and worn. The sight of it sent an instinctive chill down my spine. As I stepped out of the car, the air grew unnaturally still. No wind, no distant hum of insects. Just silence so profound it pressed against my ears. And then he spoke. Allison. I turned sharply. Evan stood by the tree, shrouded in shadow but unmistakable. His face was sharper now, the details no longer blurred. He was handsome, yes, but there was something off. His features too perfect, his presence too overwhelming. You came, he said, his voice smooth and low, a melody I felt more than heard. Yes, I stammered, though I couldn't explain why. My instincts screamed for me to run, but my feet remained rooted. Evan extended a hand, and I noticed how pale it was, the skin almost translucent in the moonlight. Come closer, he urged. There's no need to be afraid. Despite the warmth in his words, the air around him felt cold, oppressive. My steps were hesitant as I moved toward him, stopping just out of reach. This place, I gestured to the tree. Why here? Because it's where we're meant to meet, where the boundaries are thinnest. His smile widened, but it didn't reach his eyes, Yuri. This is where connections become unbreakable. Unnerved, I took a step back. What are you talking about? Evan didn't answer. Instead, he lifted his hand, and the app on my phone chimed. Startled, I glanced down to see a new message. Open your heart. Complete the connection. My pulse quickened as Evan moved closer. You feel it, don't you? The pull. The longing. I am everything you've ever desired, Allison. And you... He paused, his gaze piercing. You are everything I need. The words hung in the air, their meaning twisting into something darker. My fingers trembled around my phone. This isn't right. I don't know you. You do. His voice was soft but insistent, like a lullaby. "You've always known me. You just forgot." The mist thickened, swirling around us like a living thing. Shadows stretched unnaturally beneath the tree, merging into shapes that seemed to watch and wait. I took another step back, my heart pounding. "I think I should go," I said, my voice faltering. Evan's smile faded, replaced by something unreadable. "You can leave if you wish, but if you do, you'll never feel complete again. This is your one chance, Allison, to find the love that devours." The words struck me like a cold wave. Devours. Evan tilted his head, his expression softening. "Don't you see? Love is meant to consume us, to take us whole. What I offer is eternal. No more loneliness, no more emptiness, just us." I don't remember driving home. My thoughts were a storm, fragments of Evan's words echoing in my mind. The shadows beneath the oak, the suffocating silence, the app's cryptic messages. It all swirled together in a tapestry of unease. By the time I reached my apartment, the mist had seeped into my thoughts, a heavy presence I couldn't shake. I locked the door behind me, my fingers trembling, and tossed my phone onto the couch as if it had burned me. But I couldn't stay away. The app's icon pulsed faintly, a beacon in the dark. Against my better judgment, I opened it. "Do you regret leaving?" Evan's message appeared almost instantly. I hesitated, then typed, "Who are you? What do you really want?" The reply was instantaneous. "To be with you, forever." My phone buzzed again, this time with a string of images, familiar places, objects, and moments from my life. The coffee shop where I spent lazy Sunday mornings, the old swing set at the park near my childhood home. A photo of me as a little girl, one I'd never shared with anyone. My blood turned cold. How did he have these? Before I could think, another message arrived. "I know you, Allison, every part of you. And soon you'll know me the same way." Panic clawed at my chest. I opened the phone settings and tried to delete the app, but the option was grayed out, unresponsive. My phone buzzed again, and this time, the message was chilling in its simplicity. "It's too late." My apartment felt smaller, the walls pressing inward as a shadow flickered across the room. It was subtle, gone before I could focus, but its presence lingered. I grabbed my coat, heart racing, and fled into the night. I didn't know where I was going, only that I had to escape Sieg. The streets were desolate, washed in a pale, sickly light from flickering lampposts. Each step I took seemed to echo unnaturally, the sound bouncing back at me as though the world were hollow. The cold bit deeper here, but it wasn't the weather. It was something else, something alive and watching. I clutched my coat tighter and walked aimlessly, my thoughts racing. Evan's words had rooted themselves in my mind, growing like vines that constricted tighter with each passing moment. "To be with you, forever." I glanced at my phone, its screen black and inert. Even though I'd powered it down, I swore I could still feel it pulsing faintly in my pocket, a steady rhythm that matched my own heartbeat. I thought about tossing it into the gutter, but something stopped me. A whisper of doubt, or perhaps a darker part of me still tethered to whatever Evan was. Ahead, the mist thickened, curling around the buildings like smoke. My feet carried me to a park, one I hadn't visited in years. The old swing set loomed in the distance, its chains creaking softly in the wind. Or was it the wind? The phone buzzed again, despite being turned off. I hesitated, my breath visible in the frigid air. Slowly, I pulled it from my pocket. The screen flickered on, bathing my face in its ghostly glow. "Come back to the tree, Allison. Everything will make sense." I gritted my teeth and typed furiously. "What do you want from me? Why can't I delete you?" The reply came as an image. It was the hollow oak, the gnarled tree looming larger than life. its branches extending like skeletal arms. But it wasn't just the tree this time. A faint figure stood beneath it, blurred and indistinct, yet unmistakably me. I dropped the phone, my pulse roaring in my ears. It didn't clatter against the pavement as I'd expected. Instead, the sound it made was muted, almost soft, as though the ground itself had absorbed it. The shadows in the park grew longer, deeper, stretching toward me. I stumbled backward, my foot catching on the edge of the path. As I fell, the world seemed to tilt, the mist closing in and swallowing everything but the faint hum of static that now filled the air. "Allison!" His voice came from everywhere at once, soft and melodic, yet cold as the grave. I turned wildly, searching for the source, but the park was empty. "Stop running," Evan whispered, his tone soothing, almost pleading. "You belong here, with me, always." I shook my head, scrambling to my feet. "No," I gasped, the word barely audible. "You already said yes." His words curled around me like smoke, filling my lungs. "The moment you swiped right, the connection was made. I've always been here, Allison, waiting for you to find me." The mist thickened, coalescing into shapes that flickered at the edges of my vision. They weren't solid, but they weren't entirely formless either, like memories straining to take shape. I picked up the phone, desperate for a solution. My fingers moved instinctively, navigating to the app despite my better judgment. The screen pulsed with a crimson glow, displaying a single button. "Complete the connection." Tears pricked my eyes as I stared at the words. The mist pressed closer, the shadows whispering faintly, their voices merging into a low, mournful hum. And then an idea struck me. My thumb hovered over the button, but instead of pressing it, I swiped up, force quitting the app. The screen froze for a moment before shattering into static. I opened the settings and with trembling hands initiated a factory reset. As the progress bar crawled across the screen, the shadows surged, their whispers turning to hisses. The air grew colder, sharp and biting, but I held my ground, clutching the phone tightly. "No," Evan's voice growled, the soothing veneer gone, replaced with something raw and desperate. "You can't erase me. I am part of you." The reset completed. The phone rebooted with a chime that felt unnaturally loud in the oppressive silence. The mist thinned, the shadows retreating reluctantly. My breaths came in ragged gasps as I stared at the blank home screen, devoid of the app's pulsating icon. For a moment, everything was still. Then the wind returned, rustling the leaves of the old oak in the distance. The park felt real again, solid, grounded. I stumbled toward the exit, the faint warmth of dawn breaking through the horizon. As I reached the edge of the park, I dared one last glance at my phone. The screen was clean, the app gone, but in the back of my mind, I could still hear Evan's voice, faint and persistent. "I'll wait for you, Allison, forever."